Alrighty, have I been live for a minute? Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, welcome back to A Slightly Twisted Female. I am your host, Brittany Rue. Stickapot says, hi, can you please make a web page with links to all the medical facts that is easy for everyone to refer other people to, please, and crime statistics? That sounds like a massive project. Maybe you could work on it though. I think that that's would be a great way for other people to get involved. But yeah, that would be great. um so yeah. All right, guys, love to see you. Yeah, so we're just gonna do a change of pace. I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about like Magdalene Berns lately, and I want to make sure that her impact on the gender critical movement and feminism and women and this entire conversation doesn't get lost to history. I think she's was so important, and for those who are maybe newer to this conversation, and I'm sure this is a woman who you see in people's profile pictures and in their banners and in different ways that people pay homage to her, and there's a really good reason for that. She was just such a succinct speaker. She was friends with people like Kelly J. Keene. She was really part of the early movement. Mr. Menno, Aja the Empress, Maria McLaughlin, a lot of the UK based early gender criticals back when they were just gathering around a tree, at where they were having their speakers corner. And I just think that she was such an important voice, and she spoke out against people like Ariel Scarcella and Blair White, and she, I think, was the early one calling out this true trans stuff. Magdalene Berns was just on point with everything. And I think that had she been able to continue, her voice would have just gotten stronger and more succinct. And, so I just think it's important that we like carry the torch for her and remember who she was, remember her impact to all of this. And, thinking about the fact that, again, she's, it was lesbians who were the first to sound the alarm on this, right? Radical feminist lesbians were the first to sound the alarm on this. And I think it's important that, as other people, as, these conservative Christian men pick up the narrative, which I'm glad that they do. I don't think that's a bad thing, or just these other groups pick up the narrative of these gender critical talking points. It's important that we just remember where it originated with, pay homage to that and just know our roots in this community. And I've always felt like a special sort of connection to Magdalene because she passed away in 2019. So on Friday, September 13th, 2019, Magdalene passed away from a brain tumor. And it was really, really just heartbreaking to watch. And somebody who's just so in the prime of their life. She was I think either a professional boxer or like semi-professional boxer. And seeing this woman who was just so full of life, who was so intelligent, so grounded, so beautiful really from the inside out, lose her life so quickly and to decline so rapidly. It's scary, and I feel like I relate to that, having gone through my own cancer experience and how that really coincided with me peaking and stuff like that. So I feel like I feel like a lot of relation to Magdalene Berns. So I wanted to get into, and I've just been having like a really shitty week, and not because of like any of the internet stuff. Like the Buck Angel stuff was actually like reprieve, from what's been going on. But I wanted to change the pace a little bit. So, Dragon Kittigan says, appreciate the acknowledgement because we get shit on so bad. We get shit on since forever. I remember when we were demonized when I was a kid, fearing being that predatory woman seen in the media. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, no, radical feminist lesbians, they're the godmothers. They're the godmothers of the gender critical movement. You know what I mean? And I think that torch, that honor should always remain with them. And, we need to like recognize that and pay our respects to that. Oh yeah, she was a computer scientist, wasn't she? So Freud, Gherkin and Lover says she was also good in computer science and maths. Yeah, wasn't she was like an engineer, computer scientist or something? I mean, really just like a kind of gorgeous and interesting human being. And it is really such a loss, that she's no longer with us. And yeah, so let's just get into it. She saw so much of what this was. Like, she didn't need to kind of take steps to peak and go from the true trans and make her way over to being fully gender critical. It was like she just like saw it for what it was. I think she had a profoundly analytical mind. So I wanted to start, we'll get into some of the funnier ones, but I wanted to start in this initial, they even, her and Kelly J. Keene, they had this conversation where they're talking about mermaids. And it's funny because Mermaids is the organization that GenSpect originally had slated itself as being a response to. Now they're saying that they're a response to WPATH and trying to take over WPATH. They originally wanted to take over Mermaids, and it was almost like haunting to hear them talk about Mermaids and how similar their assessment of Mermaids is to what I see GenSpect now to be. And I feel like it's sort of not like a premonition, but it's like a foreshadowing of what eventually was going to happen with GenSpect. So let's just take a look at hold on, videos.
Thing, and it goes right up to a brown G.I. Joe, and the pink Barbie is your definitely girl.
I'll put on the
Hi
closed
everyone.
captions.
Today I'm here with the notorious Posey Parker, and she's going to talk to us about her experience of being persecuted by the West Yorkshire Police for offensive tweets. So first off,
I'm going to have to put these on.
That's alright.
Oh wait, hold on, I still have it sped up. Let me put it in normal. Hold on.
To us about her experience of being persecuted by the West Yorkshire Police for offensive tweets. So first off,
I'm going to have to put these on.
That's alright.
It is so legendary, Susan. It really is.
So you first heard from the police when, and what did they say to you?
So I first heard from the police in early February, and they said that there'd been some reports of offensive tweets. Somebody made a complaint, and I was quite shocked when they said it was Susie Green from Mermaids.
Just for people who don't know, what is Mermaids?
Mermaids started out as a sort of a parent support group for gender confused children, and it's turned into sort of quite a big, monstrous thing, including lobbying.
Look how pretty Kelly J. Keene is. Like one of these women who's just like so eternally beautiful. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen pictures from when she was younger. She was obviously gorgeous like her whole life. Just so naturally beautiful. And so was Magdalene. Oh God. I'm like already a little bit like sensitive today, so I feel like I'm gonna get emotional, but I like miss this kind of era, this like early era when they were still meeting up in the park to do Speaker's Corner, and when it was just really this like handful of people who had come together to really fight this thing, just regular people. It was really, really special, and I think like profound how this all started, how this whole movement started.
Campaigning and just indoctrinating kids, I think, into transgender ideology.
And what's their relationship with West Yorkshire Police?
They had gone into West Yorkshire Police to train them on transgender issues and gender spectrum, And they, I think it's still on Twitter actually, one of the police tweeted it, which is how I know.
All right, so again, so they're talking about how this is back. So whenever I bring up Kelly J. Keene being as an actual thought criminal, being investigated by the police, this is what I'm talking about because of tweets, because of things that she said. Again, unlike Eva Korolova or these other people claim that they're being oppressed because people are like disagreeing with them on Twitter. Like, no. This is actually what being a thought criminal is. This is when your thoughts are not free, when your speech is not free. Kelly J. Keene was reported by I think the head or somebody in Mermaids again, and as somebody said, yeah, Mermaids was an organization that was originally, well, I'll let them describe it, and I know it's not that loud. I wish I could make it louder. I wish they could speak up a tiny bit. I wish they were mic'd, but they're not. I want you to hear the way that they describe Mermaids and tell me what other organization this sounds exactly like. So again, this is the I guess the Yorkshire police tweeted this. It's so ghetto when like police are like tweeting out stuff like that. A really insightful and practical session from at mermaids_gender, providing food for thought and skills for at safer leads, safer schools officers in supporting gender diverse and transgender children. And it's so that's like, again, that's how it's just amazing to me when you think that at all levels how this ideology was able to permeate and how successful they were to mobilize these like boots on the ground ways to infiltrate everybody and get a hold of everybody. Oh, by the way, for those who don't know, really Elon Musk quietly changed back Twitter. Hold on. Elon Musk Twitter, the rules about misgendering. He brought back the old policies regarding misgendering. So now if you misgender somebody or you dead name them, what will happen to your account? You won't get thrown off, but they will reduce who can see. They will like limit who can see your tweets. They'll basically start to shadow ban you. And I'm thinking Elon Musk, who only as recently as January was overtaken as being the richest man on the planet, who's one of the most powerful, influential men on the planet of all time, is now in a chokehold on his own platform that he has majority control over. How powerful is this trans lobby? How powerful is this trans lobby that they're now getting him to like roll back and acquiesce to this stuff when he was not playing into this at all. He even like disowned his own trans identifying daughter. He capitulated to the advertisers. But again, if he's capitulating the advertisers, but who's getting to these advertisers? Most people, I mean, there's got to be who was putting all the money. If the advertisers are so staunchly about this, who's getting to them? Because something's not adding up. Because, okay, the advertisers. But as we've seen, you go woke, you go broke, right? A lot of these companies that are going woke are losing huge market shares, are being, bled out. So it's not even like, oh, well, the vast majority of people support trans ideology and that's why they've got to, no. And what about his whole thing where he was telling everybody like, F you? Let's see. Just really, really quick. Really quick, just because I think it's really important. Twitter removes policy against dead naming transgender. Oh, wait, no, that's from before. Hold on, it's this one. Here we go. This is actually scary to me. This scares me. So this was posted yesterday at 1 p.m. This is from Ars Technica. X quietly revived anti-misgendering policy that Musk dropped last year. GLAAD pushes to close loopholes allowing targeted misgendering celebrities. And GLAAD is like, I guess, what, gay, lesbian, something, or I think. Yeah, I don't think it's that simple though. Oh, whoops. Twisted A saying it's abusive men who protect other abusive men. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think Musk is actually like into this stuff. I really don't. And he had even said like he didn't care about the advertisers very recently. I just feel like there's the way, because it's not just Musk, it's everybody. It's at all levels. At all levels. They're all, they're starting off being like, yeah, totally, whatever. And then all of a sudden they're coming back being like, oh, I'm actually very supportive. And, yes. And it's like, what happened? Just really, really quick before we get back into it, because I think that this is like breaking. Last April, Twitter quietly edited its abuse and harassment policy to no longer explicitly ban dead naming, calling of trans-identifying people by a former name, or misgendering, purposely using non-preferred pronouns on gender labels. This is going to mess us up so much. This is going to mess us up on YouTube. We finally were getting a chance to like speak and do more. And now it's like I'm going to have to like be so cautious. Twitter's decision came after Elon Musk suggested that his own tweets might violating the long-standing policy, which was first enacted in 2018. And that seemed to be that until last month, when the platform, now called X, just as quietly reinstated a version of its own policy. There's some serious money and power and influence going on that we don't even know about. I'm telling you, there's not even a conspiracy. In a section labeled, quote, use of prior names and pronouns, X's updated policy confirms that X will, quote, reduce the visibility of posts that purposefully use different pronouns to address someone other than what the person uses for themselves, or that use a previous name that someone no longer goes by as part of their transition. And this is why it is now more important than ever. So people who don't understand why we're going so hard at people like Stella O'Malley or Julie Bindel or all these other people who are still capitulating to the preferred pronouns and language and stuff like that. This is why. It's the beginning of rolling back the rest of our rights. It begins with something as simple as a pronoun, and it bleeds into everything else. This is serious. To me, this is very serious. GLAAD Senior Director of Social Media Safety, Jenny Olson, said that told ours that she believes policies explicitly banning dead naming and misgendering are better than vague policies that don't make it clear what's banned. Clarity makes it easier for content moderators to act on valid reports of hate speech. X's policy acknowledges that mods might struggle to discern violative uses of prior dead names and pronouns. That's why X says that, quote, given the complexity of determining whether such a violation has occurred, we will always hear from the target to determine if a violation has occurred. Requiring users to self-report these attacks, Olson told ours, places significant burden on the victim. Smaller platforms embrace stronger protections. Let's see. On Thursday, GLAAD released a report asking I need to really look into GLAAD. GLAAD is something that we're going to have to do a deep dive into. Sharing results from a 2023 survey of 6 widely used social media platforms policies, including TikTok, YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, GLAAD found that only TikTok expressly prohibits targeted misgendering and dead naming in its hate and harassment policy. Well, that's for sure, because TikTok, again, TikTok is Chinese owned. Do you think that they have those policies for their own country? Of course not. Of course not. It's really, to me, this is scary. We'll get into this more, but just be aware of that, okay? So again, all of this that ties into each other. So again, so this is the head police chief, and then as a result of being reported by somebody from Mermaids, Kelly Jane Keane was visited by the police. So this is her talking to Magdalene Berns. And this was 5 years ago. Let's see this was April 26, 2018.
It's a load of bodies, like the sort of stickman sign you see on toilet doors. And it starts with a curvy pink Barbie type thing, and it goes right up to a brown G.I. Joe. And the pink Barbie is you're definitely a girl, and the G.I. Joe is you're a boy, and then you've got non-binary stuff of yellow and green and so on in the middle.
What's that have to do with policing?
You know, I've got a nice house. If there was some burglars downstairs and the police came, I'd want to know that the burglars were addressed correctly with their pronouns and they weren't misgendered.
I will, you fucking cunt! My pronouns are they.
So what did the police say? They said there's offensive tweets. Did they tell you to come down the station? Did they arrest you? What happened?
They did actually ask me if I would go up to Leeds, because that's what you want to do. Yeah, I'd want to travel, you know, a 9-hour round trip.
And that's presumably because the police force in your area wouldn't have taken this kind of complaint seriously.
No, I can't imagine they would. I can.
Wait, did they describe the? Did they describe Mermaids yet? Hold on.
So you first heard from the police when, and what did they say to you?
So I first heard from the police in early February, and they said that there'd been some reports of offensive tweets. Somebody had made a complaint, and I was quite shocked when they said it was Susie Green from Mermaids.
Just for people who don't know, what is Mermaids?
Listen to this.
Mermaids started out as a sort of a parent support group for gender confused children, and it's.
She said Mermaids started off as a sort of parent support group that for the parent support group of parents of gender confused children.
It's turned into sort of quite a big, monstrous thing.
And it's sort of turned into sort of quite a big monstrous thing, including
lobbying, campaigning, and
including lobbying, campaigning,
just indoctrinating kids, I think, transgender ideology.
Into transgender ideology. How does that not sound exactly like Gen Spect, right? You know, I'd say, oh, well, Gen Spec's not indoctrinating kids into transgender ideology, yet they're constantly platforming men like Phil Illey, they're platforming these sexologists who are, you know, getting into these theoretical things, these unproven theories about, like, you know, sex and gender and all this sort of stuff. You know, how does that, and they're platforming people like Debbie Hayton who are talking directly to children, and they advocate for trans-identified males to be the ones to talk to kids about gender and stuff like that, because they say the kids, you know, will listen more if it's somebody, you know, like if it's a trans person, they don't want to hear it from non-trans people. Sounds exactly like Gen Spect, how Gen Spect started, right? Gen Spect apparently was a, you know, Gen Spect wants to be these organizations that they're so-called trying to replace. They want to capture the overflow. They want to capture those profits and those funds.
Policing.
You know, I've got a nice house. If there was some burglars down,
presumably because the police force in your area would.
Let's see.
Insinuating, I don't know which way they have done this. But I have been told that they know I'm still very active on social media.
Oh, so they're keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that even mean?
I don't know. I sort of feel it's more sinister, because at least with the tweets about the castration, about Susie Green, and about the CEO of Mermaids, often, I don't even know if I always named her. I don't want to misrepresent the truth. I genuinely can't.
We've got the tweets, and I'll put a link to them in the description. How did...
There is a giant Callie Girly says there is a clown on Twitter right now complaining nonstop about KJK getting rich off donations. People hate to see women be able to make a living off of their work. The same thing with birth workers, because it's supposed to be, you know, a labor of love. Whenever it's women, no one questions men getting paid for their services, even if it's something that's like interpersonal. But for women, it's supposed to be from the heart, a labor of love, you know, something that we give freely of ourselves. You know, we should all volunteer. We should all pay, you know, to sit there and do this sort of work and activism. And it's like, same thing with, like people expect that doulas should, accept like a home baked loaf of bread and a thank you card for being on call for 6 weeks and going to a 72-hour highly demanding labor after doing, over 10 hours of prenatal work and postpartum and, another 10 hours of postpartum care. And it's like, oh, how could you charge a new family? It's like, oh, well, because this is real work. This matters, right? People will pay to have all these like expensive baby gear, but then it's ridiculous as if like, even with midwives and stuff, but no one questions whether or not obstetrician gynecologists pay. But it's like, oh, you're supposed to, care for women, and then you don't want to put this extra hardship on them for charging them. And it's the same thing. If people getting mad that like Kelly J. Keene is compensated for her work. Otherwise, she will burn out. These are still personal resources. It's gas, it's time. She has to, hire film crews, put together. Like, we do not question why men get paid for their work. Yet women, it's like we all look at like with scorn at women who get paid for their work. I think it's so insane. There's not a goddamn reason that woman should not be paid handsomely for the work that she's doing on behalf of other women. She's taking time away from her family, her children, her husband, her home, time that she could be investing into something else that she has every right to make a living. Every right to make a living. I hope she gets rich. I don't give a shit. I'd rather her get rich so that she can invest her money and her time. Do people not understand the value of having rich people? Elon Musk is a great example. Why do we want only the government to have all the money so that they make all the decisions? Rich people, billionaires, are actually really important. Why? Because when there's wealthy people, they can make decisions to start, their own businesses and employ people. You don't just get rich by just getting rich and then not spending your money or using your money, right? You get rich by, the richer you are, the more employees that you need. The more companies, and most people don't just get rich off of one company. They start many companies. They can respond more directly to the wants and the demands of the market, of the people who are supporting them, right? It's not like the government who's like, oh, we don't care what you say. We have your money. We can use it however you want. The one thing about like rich people is that they're actually beholden to us in a way. If, again, when it comes down to we have the market power. The only with the government, voting and stuff and all these fucking rigged elections. But having rich people is not a bad thing. Having wealthy people is not a bad thing. We don't want the government to have all of the power. Then we have, when we have more rich people, we can like start to counter the government a little bit. That's the only way that like with Elon Musk and stuff was able to push back. A lot of that was Joe Biden going and putting speech codes. And Joe Biden was being sued for going around to different, big tech platforms and basically trying to impose a speech code, a pro-LGBT, whatever speech code. Nobody was allowed to say anything against him. Nobody was allowed to say anything against Hunter and all this sort of stuff. I would love to see her get rich. Are you kidding me? I would love to see her be a fucking billionaire. KJK was a billionaire. Then we could really get some shit done. But people hate to see women thriving. People hate to see women making money and being able to support. I remember even the midwife I used to work for, I remember she had gone and gotten like some kind of like little, I think she had went and bought herself something really nice. She did something for herself that cost a lot of money. She was like, oh, but she was telling us, she's like, but don't tell anybody. And we were like, I was like, why? She's like, no, because, people don't like, if people know that I'm like spending money on kind of elaborate things, sometimes they get a little funny about it. And they're like, oh, if you have all this money, to spend, why are you charging me so much? It seems like you're making, quite enough money for yourself. And it's like, huh? You're on call. This woman has never gone on a vacation in her life because she's constantly on call. This woman has never had a normal sleep schedule in years and years and years. And I can't imagine the toll that takes on her because she's constantly having to drop everything and leave because somebody's in labor. Why the fuck would she not be able to like go and take some of the fruits of all of that labor and go spoil herself? Can we stop pretending like being in some sort of Marxist hellhole is like ideal? And we should all just like, pass around the bread loaf and stuff and like, take a few crumbs and then like, whatever the government hands to us. We need a balance. It's good to have government, but it's also good to have, private citizens and private individuals that have power and influence. That's a good thing. It creates a nice balance.
Please find out that you Posey, because Posey Parker's not your real name. How did they find out that she?
So this is back when she was going by Posey Parker, and they found out who there's Kelly J. Keane.
How did?
Oh wait, hold on. I just want to see what this was.
The truth, I genuinely.
We've got the tweet.
All right, it says, so Posey. This is before. So Posey Parker was outed as Kelly J. Keane because originally she was going by Posey Parker as like a pseudonym just to protect her family and her identity. Because remember, when Kelly J. Keane was doing this, nobody was doing it. Kelly J. Keane, Magdalene, Berns, Mr. Menno, I don't know. Like I think Kara Dansky came a little bit later and stuff like that or whatever. Then Jen Thomas and whoever, they were the first, right? J.K. Rowling, they were really putting stuff. I mean, you guys all the things that we can finally say now, even like 2-3 years on, is stuff that we could not say even just a few years ago. And we can't forget that. The stuff that Kelly J. Keane was saying on air, on Twitter, that Magdalene Berns was saying on YouTube, on Twitter, was revolutionary. That J.K. Rowling was saying. They were showing up to this woman's house. They cut her out of her own legacy. We can never take that for granted. So again, at the Posey Parker says, Mermaids, what organization that, the organization that preys on homosexual teens at Pride? The one where CEO took her 16-year-old son to Thailand to be castrated? Wow. The CEO took her 16-year-old son to get bottom surgery at 16, though? Jesus God.
And I'll put a link to them in the description. How did the police find out that Posey, because Posey Parker's not your real name, how did they find out that she?
Well, apparently, Susie Green reported me sort of July, August. It took them until February to contact me because they had to get my details from Twitter.
Right, so Twitter didn't ask for a warrant or anything like that?
I have no idea. I don't know why they gave my details to the British law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, what? Because.
All right, so I'm just gonna we're just gonna kind of go through quickly and just do little excerpts from each of these, because I want to get through and for those who don't know Magdalene Berns well, and for those who do, just let's get a whole taste of everything. So so that was a wonderful conversation. Oh, this is one of my favorite videos of her. This is her going after Riley Dennis.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to be addressing a recent video by a YouTuber by the name of Riley J. Dennis, which is called What is a TERF?
Radfems, gender critical feminists, real women, trans exclusionary radfems, or gender critical feminists, women's empowerment, real women, biological women, XX, real women, or real females.
Now, I'm not going to use my usual format where I go through point by point because it would take too long, but not just that, also because I've addressed all the kind of straw man arguments that he's setting up.
Body mutilation, unnatural body mutilation, men. And
in other videos already, which I'll...
This reminds me so much of the video I did for, what's his name? Jesse Gender. Oh, and Magdalene, thank you. To be clear, and Magdalene, I'll say this to you as if you can hear me. You're the reason that I can do this YouTube channel. This YouTube channel would not have been possible if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for your influence, if it wasn't for you creating this space. Women like you and Vanessa Vokey, I'm so grateful for. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be gathered here, right here today, if it wasn't for you. And it's I hope that in some way or another, how much your legacy has continued to snowball and spread outwards and onwards. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Of your bravery, of you willing to put yourself and risk everything, You know, it's like I get like attacked by like, oh, like, you know, Stella or like Buck Angel. It is not, what happens to me doesn't even scratch the surface of the way that these women were attacked. Women like Vanessa Vokey and Magdalene Berns. You know, and I'm so grateful.
I'll link to in the description, and I just don't feel the need to repeat myself, to be honest. But what I do want to address is that some of the key points about his video, because I think it's important. So there's a few key claims and statements that Wiley J. Dennis makes in his video that I take exception to. The first is
trans women are real women. Trans women are biological women.
The second is
yeah, so Dragon Kid again says, thanks so much to Magdalene's sister for keeping this going. Yeah, I would love to reach out to her. I wonder if there's like any way to get in touch with her. Susie Glucksman says Magdalene would 100% be holding the line with you and KJK without a doubt. She understood without even like saying the words true trans. She clearly understood. She was going against that whole group. The Ariel Scarcella and the Blair White, she saw straight through it. And she did it with such precision and humility. And I think, you know, the difference between like my temperament and hers, like I like yell and jump around and I'm all like obscene and like, yeah, you use all this profanity. And like, she didn't even need that. You know, it takes me like 4 hours in a stream to like make the goddamn point. She's making these, you know, 8-minute videos and just surgically just cutting straight to the point and leaving no crumbs, nothing, like period. She just executes it with just such precision and brilliance, and there isn't even a gram of extra fat or bullshit or nonsense. I mean, she's phenomenal.
Hating TERFs means supporting trans women.
But then he goes on to essentially give his definition of what he thinks a TERF is. I mean, he's gone on about it for ages in his video, but this is the nuts and bolts of what grinds his gears.
Now I want to talk briefly about terfism 2.0. This is a new kind of terfism that I've only seen popping up recently. I'm sure it's been around.
How annoying is his voice? Oh yeah, afterwards. So yeah, he's playing rugby, I guess, wherever the fuck he's from, and hurt some woman. We'll look at that. It's like the mansplaining. Like, tell us more, male. Tell us more about what lesbians do and what women do.
For longer, but it seems to me like it's been more prevalent in the last year or so. Terfism 2.0 is where TERFs make tiny concessions to draw people in, but hold their ground on their overall point. A perfect example of this is that some modern-day TERFs have stopped saying trans women are men, and instead have started saying trans women are women, but they're male. Substituting men for male has allowed them to be more politically correct while still sending the same message.
So essentially, Wiley's categorizing TERFs into two areas. Like, you've got the one which say that trans women are men, which is factually true because a man is an adult human male, and then you've got the more politically correct women that kind of, you know, they've come up with some definition of woman that doesn't refer to sex. With
you hear, she's so early on laying the groundwork and understanding that there are some people who are trying to straddle the line. They're trying, and you see the kind of like disgust face that she's making slightly as she talks about this, and clearly showing that it makes no sense. Magdalene Berns is the original like true trans, like line hold, like exposing true trans and the ridiculousness of those who enable true trans, and she was able to see straight through it. It's like, I feel like it just didn't even compute why people need to do that. I think she's so logical, so rational. To her, it's just like, why? There's either truth or there's not truth, and that's it. What else are we talking about?
Doesn't refer to sex, which I'd love to hear because I don't actually see a coherent definition of woman that doesn't mean adult human female. But they've somehow in their heads managed to do that. And then they say trans women are male. And they do this to make concessions, you know, because they want to be nice or whatever. They want to be politically correct. So he's absolutely right in that. We need to ask, why does it bother him and trans activists overall that when women do this, but it doesn't seem to bother them when men do this? Like, most people In fact, everyone knows that trans women are male.
It's because they know it's easier to control and to gaslight and manipulate women and to weaponize empathy against women. Men aren't playing that shit. It's the same reason why they don't even bother trying to shame men for making money off of their work or charging for their services. But they know that they can sit there and go, oh, man, come on. Oh, hey, man, you know, can't you just, like, do it for free? Or can I just pay you half? And then can I just, like, do some, like, extra work for you, and then that's okay? Or, you know, or same thing, even if it's like, yeah, I want to hire you as a woman, and, you know, I'm not going to pay you, but I can give you some, you know, exposure and stuff like that. It's like the stuff that they don't even try with men.
Everyone knows that trans women are men. People would say in other ways just to be polite. Or, you know, because they don't want to get...
Oh, wow. Kai Decadent says, and remember, everyone, let it be known that Blair White originally challenged her to a debate in late 2018-2019, but Blair kept making excuses to bail about 3 times before it was swept under the rug. Oh, because he knew he would get slaughtered. The thing is, Blair's not dumb. He's really not. He's not a complete idiot, and he understands that there's no coherence. That's why, and I know that he's not dumb because he's able to sort of like masterfully, you know, craft this sort of like gaslighting that in his mind and in the minds of other people who listen to it, it somehow makes sense that he's gender critical but also trans at the same time and is able to sell that whole thing. But somebody like Magdalene Berns, who I think could so surgically and effectively dismantle everything that he's sort of propped up about himself. I mean, like within seconds, right? Within a minute or two. I think there would just be no coming back from that for Blair. If Blair had ever followed through with that debate, there would be no Blair White as we know him today. I think she would have just ended him.
Considered hateful or whatever, but the fact is everyone knows this. So why does it bother him that specific?
Yeah, Honest Han says, I think Blair has been realizing that trans is bullshit, but is too far into it to back out now, and also is too attached to it personally. You know, it's hard to let go. I think part of him like wants to be able to like just go back and just be a gay man. I think he seems very depressed and confused.
Only when it's women doing it, which brings me back to the first one of the early points that he made.
If you say that TERFs are extremely harmful anti-trans bigots, 1 million people will pop up to call you a misogynist because TERFs are largely women. Okay, so what?
So here's where the hyperbole starts, where he thinks that 1 million people are even interested of what he's got to say or even know who he is. No, I think a lot of women respond to being called a sexist slur because they are offended because it's quite clearly directed at women, hence why it's a sexist slur. I mean, if it was another word like asshole, it could refer to either men or women, couldn't it? But it's not. It's directed at women, so that's what makes it sexist. So at this stage, I just want to emphasize stuff that I've already said in other videos. There is no such thing as a TERF. There is no such thing. This idea that there's real TERFs, there's TERF 1.0, there's TERF 2.0 is an absolute fabrication. It's a straw man. It's the big bad witch that's the auntie, the bad person, the bad woman that's badly behaved. That she doesn't exist. And I've said this in all my different videos on this subject and shown categorically that this is nonsense. I've had people try to get me over the course of the time to concede to the idea that I'm one of the good ones and there's these bad ones hiding around the corner in the alley who are the really bad ones. But I can tell you, these people don't exist. This is just, you know, it's just a slur. It doesn't describe anything real. It's directed at women, particularly lesbians, but also increasingly mothers, you know, who know what it's like to go through pregnancy and childbirth and all that stuff, and, you know, and they recognise this is nonsense. So the real concern here...
I so appreciate her for that. Oh, I want to cry. You know, Because it was lesbians, I think, that recognized this first because they got force teamed, because the cotton sealing, because of how they were targeted by trans identifying males. I think because they were so unprotected, because they were kind of, maybe their families were embarrassed or whatever. They were kind of pushed to the side and had to be pushed underground. And then they were so vulnerable that they got force teamed with these creeps, through the LGBTQ. And they realized, oh, we can, get a hold of these women who have been kind of like shunned or, have to like hide their sexuality and whatever. They're easy for us to go after. That's why lesbian women had to learn about this first and early. This isn't like they were just interested in the topic and discovered it. It's because it was pushed on to them. But it's like, and I really appreciate her recognizing that. That's why, to me, the idea of a birth worker. So for those who saw my one interview with Abby, the midwife, and we talked about all this stuff, one of our other midwife friends who we've been friends with for years, and they've done they've continued to do a lot of work together. They just had a big falling out. She called me crying the other day and was like, our other friend doesn't want to talk to me anymore. She says she's done. Our relationship is over. And I was like, what's going on? She was like, because of my views, because I don't believe that trans women are women, and my views on the, like the LGBTQ plus and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I just don't understand how these women who deal in childbirth and understand the intricacies, it's like, are you ever going to attend a birth of a trans woman? No. Why? Because they're not the same as us. They're not the same. To me, it's like, it should just be so obvious. And I appreciate her recognizing that.
Here is what he's saying in this clip.
Hating TERFs means supporting trans women.
Quite clearly, that is incitement to hate women and lesbians, what he's saying. And yet he gets a free pass because he's saying he's a progressive to hate on women. I mean, his entire video is the Pied Piper of transplaining. It's directed at children, and if you don't believe me, put your YouTube channel on restricted mode and go and see how many of his videos are visible to children. He is targeting children, and he's trying to sell this idea to them that any woman that knows about biology needs to be vilified. So women that are on the edge of this and going, oh, I think trans women are women, but sex and gender are different. You ain't gonna get away with it with these people. They're not gonna stop until you completely concede. So you need to stop trying to say, I'm one of the good ones, there's those bad ones over there, but honestly I'm not that bad, because it's not going to work. People like Riley J. Dennis are out for your blood. They will not settle for anything but total compliance, and you just need to stand up for yourself and stop being weak, because there's a lot more of you than there are of them. And the fact is, Riley J. Dennis knows this, otherwise he wouldn't be making this video. Just don't bow to it, because everyone knows that trans women are men. So let's cut the bullshit. Let's stand up for ourselves and let's stop being weak, because this nonsense is seeping into legislation and policy, and you will lose your rights to even speak about yourself. And you'll lose your rights to be a lesbian. You'll lose your rights to speak about issues that predominantly affect women. And you'll lose your rights to free speech, to
Love Lover says, I never knew it was possible to miss somebody I never met before. I discovered Magdalene immediately after her death. I know. Oh, I know. It makes me want to cry. Like, I know.
To name reality, to say the emperor has no clothes. It's about time people took this issue seriously, because it's not going to end here. And also the fact that they're fighting us, the fact that people like Riley J. Dennis are making videos and they're no longer ignoring it, shows that they're losing. They're starting to lose, despite all the money behind them, despite the fact that the media are cowering, the medical profession are cowering. They are losing.
This is why this is why the whole Twitter, the whole X thing terrifies me and scares me, because it's not organic. It's not organic. Even Magdalene Berns in 2018 is saying they're losing. They're losing, and they are. The average person, really, if you really press them, is not really fully on the side, unless they're like super indoctrinated or into it and have some sort of social capital, you know, tied up into it, or profit motive, or whatever the case may be, or, you know, they're sexual deviant, whatever. But even as early as 2018, Magdalene is saying they're losing. So how are we going backwards already? That's not organic. That's not natural. There are some forces within this movement that are very powerful and silent and invisible. And I want to know what they are. That scares me. That there's something that could just be like an undercurrent that is in control of so much, and we have no idea. That way we can't vote for it. We can't scrutinize it. We can't have any say in it. And it's controlling our lives in measurable ways. Other ways that we probably don't even know about. All right, let's take a look at another. Oh, God. It's not like cry. We'll go through her popular ones. Let's take a look at this one. Alak Malu or whatever.
This bloke, Alok, is just too annoying. There's so much wrong with everything that he's producing. He's just taking ridiculous to a new level.
Hi, my name is Alok and I'm non-binary, which means I don't identify as a man or a woman.
Alok, I'm just going to be honest, mate. The entire world looks at you and they identify a man. Doesn't matter how you identify a man, that's what they see.
That's a gender non-conforming person who's making me uncomfortable because of my own insecurities.
It's okay. Let's call it names so we feel better about our own repressed desires.
So here, Alok.
It's funny how these like TRAs, these TPAs, these trans privilege activists that she's showing are talking about, oh, look, there's a a non-binary person who's making me feel uncomfortable because of my own insecurities. This is the exact same thing the Buck Angel said about me. Oh yeah, ASD, slightly twisted female, she's just insecure and her boyfriend doesn't want her because he'd rather, you know, jerk off the porn about me. And it's like, no, what? Ew, no. Oh, Magdalene.
Presenting these two American version of posh young women as being the threat or the problem that gender non-conforming people are facing. Like 80% of violent crimes in the US are caused by male people, and this is a problem. Women, these two posh American girls, are you joking me?
Even though society encourages individuality.
Alok, stop right there. I'm beginning to suspect you have no problems, Alok. What society encourages individuality? What is your video about? What's the problem you're trying to solve here if society encourages individuality? God's sake.
Non-binary people like me are punished for daring to defy conventions and be ourselves.
Now I'm just trying to figure out how Alok thinks he's being punished, because like he looks pretty fucking smug to me.
Man, woman, liberal, conservative, crazy, sane. Each one of these is what we call a dichotomy, and they are everywhere.
So this is the part where these identitarians decide they want to destroy the entire English language. I'd really urge anybody who questions what I'm saying right now to read a book called 1984 written by George Orwell, because there's a whole section in that book describing what these people are doing, destroying the English language so that it has no meaning whatsoever, and that we can't communicate. We're like animals, just with no thoughts.
Convenient that a philosophy of
that
the
makes
mind,
so much
body,
when you destroy language, nothing has any there's you can't communicate. There's no, that's why language is such an important facet of culture, so that we can describe our experiences, so that we can have shared values, so that we can, you know, communicate understanding, knowledge, culture to each other. When you destroy that, you destroy everything. Destroy culture, you destroy everything. So you destroy your ability to think. We think in language. Think about your dreams. Are they just pictures and feelings, or is there language? How do you describe that? How do you describe what you're feeling when you get hurt, when you understand something? When you destroy language, you destroy really people's power. Language is our power is in our language, and it's in our shared language. And when you destroy that, you destroy everything.
divide emerged at a time when Descartes' Enlightenment developed on the backs of exploited black and brown people in the global south.
Because people of color just have bodies and not minds.
So now these people are just appropriating the struggle of African American people, trivializing it. Several hundred years of slavery and oppression is somehow comparable to misgendering someone. Are you fucking joking me? I have no idea why African Americans aren't raging about this. I'm insulted. I'm not even black and I'm not even American.
Hey, excuse me, that's not your...
What?
No.
Bloke grabbing...
Yeah, the way that black Americans are tokenized and used as some kind of like tool to push their agenda is so offensive and insane. And I watch the comments that people make to Karen Davis on a regular basis on Twitter, and it makes me want to gouge my eyeballs out. The amount of times you should go onto her Twitter and then type in, Karen Davis, and then, as a black woman, like, of other people saying that to her. I don't even know if that's possible. The amount of TPAs you're like, as a black woman, I'm very surprised that you don't understand how your own experiences, correlate with the experiences of trans women and blah, 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 blah. And you'd think that you as a black woman, the amount of times that people say to this woman, this highly intelligent, older woman who has more experience, more wisdom, more family, understanding of these dynamics than any of these, idiot 22-year-olds who are in college. And there's lecturing her about why it's so offensive to me, and everything about black women, and they're like, oh yeah, because black women have been masculinized, and it's the same experience of men who masquerade as women being masculinized. Like, no, that's not the same. It's not the same, and it's so offensive that you're drawing these insane parallels.
The world off of two women, thus proving male privilege.
Listen, the world is far too complicated and nuanced to fit into two oppositional categories only.
Alok, do you know how babies are made? Because you don't seem to understand the difference between sex and gender. You want to wear a dress, you want to express yourself, that's fine. You're always going to be male. You were born with a cock and balls. And that's just the way it is, and it's fine. Just relax. Alok, wear a dress. You are a bloke who likes wearing dresses. And that's fine, that's cool. Just be you.
In our patriarchal society, women and femmes are taught from a young age that we have to be beautiful.
Look, just fuck off, Alok. This is femmes business.
Femmes.
Women and femmes. Are you fucking joking me? Is that what we are? Fuck off, you prick.
Women and femmes don't
I
have
love her. God, I love her. All right, we'll move on. Let's do another one. Such a clown. Oh my God. Oh, this one's really good. Yeah, we will. I'll make sure to do the Blair White one and the Ariel Scarcella. Yeah, Alok called little girls kinky.
About a week ago, I responded to a video called Your Dating Preferences Are Discriminatory by a YouTuber called Riley J. Dennis. A subscriber of mine has alerted me to the fact that he's written a sort of catch-all response to the criticisms that he got. Some of them refer to some of the comments that I've made. Most of them don't, but some of them do. So I'm just going to address those and maybe comment a little bit on some of the ones that aren't relevant to what I said in my video, just for the hell of it. So Riley's obviously written an introduction for his response so that everybody in his little liberal community recognises that he's talking to the bad people. He said, so this video seems to have struck a chord with the alt-right anti-feminist community on YouTube. Straight away there, dismissing his ideological opponents as the big bad, cis, white, heterosexual, cis-normative males. They seem awfully offended. Some might even say triggered by this video. It's almost like they want me to be more ... politically correct. Maybe he's doing that because he realises how rapey he sounds. All joking aside, the responses to this video have made such poor arguments that it feels like a waste of my time to even address them, but whatever, here we go.
I'd argue that he hasn't addressed them. He has not referred to which YouTubers, which videos he's responding to. Point one, he says, you're preaching conversion therapy, or, oh, so gay people are discriminatory. So he goes, no, just no. I explicitly addressed this in my video. I say that conversion therapy, brackets, which is more accurately described as electroshock torture, what Riley J. Dennis, being a straight man, is doing that is he's trivializing the experiences of gay people who've been subjected to conversion therapy to say, oh, if you haven't had electroshock therapy, what the hell are you complaining about? Because he doesn't have a fucking clue what he's talking about. You're allowed to have a sexual orientation. Oh, thank you, Riley J. Dennis, but your entire video says otherwise. It's not discriminatory to be straight or gay or bisexual or whatever. If you understand the definition, I'm not just talking about the literal definition here, I'm talking about the legal definition of homosexuality, bisexuality, and heterosexuality. These characteristics are protected such that you cannot, by law, at least in the UK, and I'm sure that it's the same in the US, be discriminated against on the basis of your sexual orientation. That's why I make the distinction between sexual preference and sexual orientation. I can't believe I even have to...
And that's why they went to the core of things, and I'm going to bring this up again. This is why this is so dangerous and allowing them to change. This is why people like Helen Pluckrose are so dumb and insane when she says things like, that, you know, it's part of the marketplace of ideas and it's classical liberalism that, you know, people can have different interpretations of different words and different meanings for different words. No, that's postmodernism, ma'am. You know, part of the problem is when, you know, you change things around and make different things, is that you can't hold those sort of boundaries and stuff like that. And that's exactly what happened here with Webster Dictionary definition of female. They went straight to the core of it. Straight to the core of it, right? Again, this is how they were able to kneecap us. Female, adjective. 1, of, relating to, or being the sex that typically has the capacity to bear young or produce eggs. Okay, fine. 2, having a gender identity that is the opposite of male. So being a female now has a gender identity that is the opposite of male. This is how they're able to get around laws, right? So now, if they have a law saying that you cannot discriminate on the basis of homosexuality, of being a lesbian or gay, and that, you know, these people are allowed to have their own things, right? Well, no, actually, yeah. Now that lesbians can be legally defined, you know, some males can legally be lesbians because they have a gender identity, then anything that is somehow tethered to our sex binary now has you know, any protections tethered to our sex binary has no weight, no ability to do anything to protect anything. Because now men can be defined that way too. There is no protection anymore. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
To say that I'm literally gay. He's not using the literal or legal definition when he says that, because he actually likes women. This guy is straight. I would never insinuate that conversion therapy is appropriate, and for you to draw that conclusion from my video tells me you either didn't watch the whole video or you just don't have any valid arguments, so you're reaching for whatever you heard your favourite response video say. I watched your video, I understand it, I recognise that you're straight and you are advocating what is known as the cotton ceiling, which is conversion.
No offense, Gen X. I'm sorry, guys. What a mess. What a mess. All right, let's see if we can get Maggie. Hey guys. Sorry. It's so annoying when that happens. So I'm sorry, and I don't, you know, Gen X-ray, I don't mean to like totally call you out. Come on. Hold on for 1 second. Damn, what the hell? Hold on, I'm gonna pause this really quick so I can fix this. What a mess. Sorry, guys. I'm here. Let's see. Damn. Why is it doing this? Why is the chat being mad weird now? Okay, this is very interesting, but oh well, here we are. I'm here. Where do I'm here? Oh, damn. Why is it doing this? Why is the chat? Hold on. Sorry. You know, I might have to not have the chat up for. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I think I'm gonna have to take the chat off. Oh wait, no. Here, hold on. But it's like weird because it's like the chat is being. I don't know. I'm sorry. All right, we'll just get rid of the chat, I think. Or maybe I'll keep it like in the corner here. Okay. Oh, Magdalene. Wait, is that it? Is that working now? Okay, so let's just, let's go through this one. Ah, there we go. There we go. That was so weird.
Just come out with another painfully embarrassing video. It's called Your Dating Preferences.
She really used to go after Riley Dennis a lot. Like, they used to go back and forth, and she used to own him every single time. Every time.
Gender identity and sexual orientation video is called Your Dating Preferences. YouTuber Riley J. Dennis has just come out with another painfully embarrassing video. It's called Your Dating Preferences Are Discriminatory. The gist of it is that he's trying to persuade gays and lesbians not to be gay and lesbian because he wants to reconcile the antithetical relationship between gender identity and sexual orientation. It's not possible to do this without being homophobic. Of course, he's got to wrap that up in a bastardized form of intersectionality theory and present himself as a trans lesbian in order to trap the unwary into believing that they're supporting something progressive.
Would you date someone who's trans?
The liberals' way of disguising their homophobia is to conflate sexual preference with sexual orientation. A straight man is not interested in trans women because his sexual orientation is heterosexual, whereas a bisexual man who's not interested in trans women, this is his sexual preference, right? He's interested in other men sometimes, he's just not interested in trans women.
Would you date someone who's black? Would you date someone who's fat?
Why is it, of course, the first thing is always like, would you date someone who's black? They love tokenizing black people. They love tokenizing black people. And also, it like kind of takes for granted. This is something that like the person who had said, whatever, it takes for granted that everywhere in the world has the same racial dynamics that America does with like white and black people, and which is not at all the case. But also, like, what the fuck does black people have to do with men who want to dress up as women and be perceived as such because, for whatever reason, because, you know, it's either a homosexual dating strategy or, you know, they get off on it and it's some sort of weird paraphilia. It has literally nothing to do with black people. Literally nothing. Like, stop. It's so insane to me. It's so offensive and fucking insane.
Who's disabled?
The reason why people will instinctively recognise someone who says, I don't do fatties, as being objectionable and rude is because it's not actually...
I don't do fatties. I'm sorry. I love her. I'm so sorry.
Actually necessary to say that.
It's totally misogyny noir. They don't give a shit about black women until it's like, I'm sorry, but it's also the same way that these white liberals love to utilize black women, you know, when it came to like, you know, throwing black women out in the middle of like, it's like, oh, someone who breaks this down really well is Paris Milan. And she talks about how she thinks one of the most like evil things in the world is this whole like, you know, a black woman is going to save the world. The world will all be saved by a black woman. And she was like, why is it our job? This idea that it's like, we're the most, you know, the group with the least support And you know, it's like we're still trying to like deal with our own self-care, and then everything gets dumped on our shoulders. And I feel like that was the problem with Black Lives Matter a little bit. It's like Black women got kind of sent this message that they had to throw themselves in front of bullets in between, you know, Black men and police. Which honestly, that's, to me, it was like a something that Black men should have stepped up and dealt with, and not this idea of weaponizing Black women and forcing them to go out and throw themselves into these very masculine positions, these masculine, dangerous positions. It's not a woman's place, period. It's not a woman's place, period. So why do Black women get masculinized and thrown this whole idea that like, oh, you know, like the weight of the world, you know, you'll be the one to save us and all this stuff. White liberals love to tokenize Black women, specifically. You know, but then when it comes to actually like giving a shit, it's like, oh yeah, you know, see ya. Like, then it's like, yeah, let's defund the police, which who does that help? Definitely not the demographic of women who are being killed every 6 hours within their own community, right? Right? Who does that help? Who does that help? Not women. Not children, not elderly people, people who aren't committing violent crimes. So what, they're even more trapped and without resources or help. That why would you defund the police in areas where they're critically needed? Makes no sense.
Yeah, even if it's true. Whereas the default is heterosexual. It's necessary for gay people and lesbian people to say, I'm not interested in people of a particular sex. To conflate sexual orientation and sexual preference is very manipulative and dishonest.
I'll link to a couple really good videos in the description about racial dating preferences.
You can link to whatever you like, Riley, but I see what you're doing. You're conflating sexual preferences with sexual orientation so that you can escape accusations of homophobia.
But in this video, I want to talk about our other biases.
And by other biases, you mean sexual orientation. Sexual orientation specifically refers to whether you're heterosexual, bisexual, or homosexual. In countries like the UK, it's a characteristic that is protected by anti-discrimination law. But there's still 65 countries where it's illegal to be gay or lesbian. In 10 of them, the death penalty applies to homosexuality. Riley J. Dennis goes to one of these countries where it's illegal to be gay with his cis girlfriend.
Paris Milan is like one of my favorite YouTubers. She's like one of the people who I got the long form, like, I like love listening to her. Like hours.
He's not going to get arrested because they know what a homosexual is and it's not based on gender identity.
Would you date a trans person, honestly?
No, I would not date a trans person. I wouldn't date a male trans woman because they're male, and I wouldn't date a female trans man because they want to be a man. So the first example relates to sexual orientation and the second relates to sexual preference. And both of those are valid reasons to reject someone.
Well, if you said no, I'm sorry, but that's pretty discriminatory.
Well, I'm not sorry because I understand that dating is a...
Paris's dusty voice, like, never, it's so funny and it never gets old. And one of her most, I think one of the most powerful videos that I've ever seen on YouTube, period, was Paris Milan going against this one guy. She rips him apart for like 2 hours straight, and it's so epic and like surgical. I really, you know, and I know that like, you know, she has like a contentious relationship with like, you know, non-Black women and white women and stuff, but like I hear where she's coming from. Like, you know what I mean? Like I get it. And she calls out a lot of really important stuff. You know, I would like to see more solidarity. I would like to see women like coming together as a sex class first and foremost, you know, and I've made videos about that, but like, I really like hearing her perspective. And she's like, I mean, she's like somebody who I'll just like, that's who I sit and listen to when I'm like doing dishes and stuff.
The discriminatory process. People are allowed to sexually reject anyone for any reason they want without being coerced.
No, wait, who was the the biracial guy? I was just watching that. Well, sometimes I rewatch her stuff. The biracial guy, that one was really funny. No. Fuck, who was it? It was like some guy who was talking about like having to go 50-50 or something. And he kept getting mad and like responding to her, so she kept doing like a part 2 and like a part 3. I was like, bro, just stop responding to this woman. She's not gonna like let up on you. And he was just making himself look so bad. It was so funny.
Coercively guilt-tripped for it. It's kind of a basic concept of feminism.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're a horrible person who hates trans people.
You kind of are, because when you say that sexual rejection is a form of discrimination, you're suggesting that one group can oppress another group by sexually rejecting them.
There was probably a time in my life when I said I wouldn't date a trans person, but since then I've thought critically about it and changed my mind.
It's all very well and good you saying that, because you know that these lesbian, trans women aren't interested in you because they're heterosexual males.
There are definitely trans people who you would never know are trans unless they told you.
I'd never know you were trans unless you told me.
But I think arguing that you would only like a trans person if you didn't know they were trans is a poor argument.
It's not an argument I've ever made, because I can't imagine a trans woman would ever trick me, to be honest. I just think trans women really act like men. But they also tend to go for this kind of pornified look for all the makeup and hair and shit. Even when women do that, I'm just not into that. But I do find it weird that you're sitting there arguing with people about who they should be interested in sexually. It kind of sounds like you're a bit of a bully, to be honest, Riley.
Because
she did. Wait, hold on. Oh, wait, hold on.
As we associate penises with men and vaginas with women, some people think they can never date a trans man with a vagina or a trans woman with a penis.
Those people are called homosexuals and heterosexuals.
The people are more than their genitals.
What he's saying is really aggressive, by the way.
I think that you could feel attraction to someone without knowing what's between their legs.
Ew.
And if you were to say that you're only attracted to people with vaginas or people with penises...
Translation: if you were to say that you're a heterosexual man, a homosexual woman, or a heterosexual woman, homosexual man,
it really feels like you're reducing people just to their genitals.
When are people going to recognise that these fucking pricks are homophobic?
You're kind of objectifying them, but you're thinking of them more as genitals than objects.
She's so good. All right, so I think she, like, that's like the crux of that. When are the people going to realize that these pricks are homophobic? I don't know what happened here. Okay. Oh, wait, here, really quick. All right, hold on. I want to hear, look. Here's where she talks
Hi
about...
everyone, today I'm going to be responding to a recent Blair White video called Feminism, the Biggest Joke, and it's about Women's March. First off, I want to emphasise that I do have my own criticisms of these kind of anti-Trump marches, and some of them are outlined in my video on the United States of America. I also think it's important to point out some of the flaws in Blair's arguments, and that this new intro Blair has is a little bit thirsty as well.
Hi.
I mean, Blair, you couldn't have made it any more obvious that you want this hair flick thing to become a meme if you had turned it into a GIF and tweeted it yourself before you released this video. Oh, you did.
You guys know that this channel started out with me criticizing feminism, and you may have noticed, but I've moved on to other topics because I've kind of have felt like feminism is dead.
During the election, making fun of fat people, Islam, BLM, so hot. Feminism, so not. It was like dead.
It kind of felt like beating a dead horse for a while. But, honey, that's not the case.
Blair is suspiciously good at keeping up with anti-feminist trends on YouTube.
Feminism seems to be alive and stronger than ever.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
A women's march assembled around the world recently, and millions of women took to the street in their vagina hats. And
those hats aren't vagina hats. Look, you can see their cat ears. Do not take an image of that hat to your surgeon, mate. You will regret it.
Vagina costumes.
These are a little bit more accurate in their depiction of a vagina, but I still wouldn't take them in.
To protest against being objectified for their vaginas.
Blair, I see you're contributing to the chorus of trans activists who have expressed horror and dismay at the idea of women talking about their female biology. Just like this chap who resolved to throw pictures of penises at women because he felt they were cis-privileged.
As a staunch supporter of the First Amendment, I fully support their right to assemble peacefully and not do things like light female Trump supporters' hair on fire.
I'm like afraid to touch the computer.
It's just as well that that guy behind her put out the fire before anybody was hurt.
Not protect male feminists who punched female reporters at their march.
You don't have the right to film me where you go. Yes, she does. Just you.
Yeah, I do. You just hit me in the face.
Protect him from who? The female reporter whose camera he just punched. The normal thing to do when there's no security or police in the immediate vicinity and you see someone get hit, if you are feeling brave enough to put yourself at risk, is to get between the attacker and the person they are attacking to make sure that the situation doesn't escalate. If you go to the rebel media and you watch the full footage, I think they were just trying to make sure that no one gets hurt.
And not talk about blowing up the White House.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Madonna's clearly talking about her thoughts, not her intentions there. I'm pretty sure the First Amendment that you said you fully support does cover that. I guess US patriots might have reason to view Madonna as a credible threat, given her eerie ability to reinvent herself. But if Madonna was sent to Guantanamo Bay, Lady Gaga might have to up her game, and what would become of America then?
And it was mostly peaceful.
We talk about a couple of incidents in millions of people getting together.
However, personally for me, the march left a lot to be desired.
So Blair, are you reviewing the march now?
I wasn't really sure what the goal of the march was.
I thought you said you thought the march was because women thought they were being objectified. I mean, I have no idea, but that's what you said.
I mean, of course it ran under the nebulous guise of women's rights, but I can't think of a single right that women are denied that men have.
Blair, are you talking about women in the USA or women who aren't in the USA? Because US policy does actually affect women all around the world, what with it being the world's largest.
I hear you. So right now to be fair, Blair mostly attacked liberal or pop feminism, and I hate liberal feminism too, but I feel like it also lays the groundwork for him to reject anything that's under the umbrella of feminism, right? So that he can kind of, poo-poo off any sort of feminist critique of what he's doing, and it's just, he comes off like MRA, and it's like, yeah, okay, fine, but it's like, allow women to, work that out through ourselves. It's not like he's saying, oh, well, liberal feminism is problematic in these ways, but radical feminism. And of course, because at the end of the day, he's a man. None of this applies to him anyway. This isn't his conversation. It's not even his dialogue. And if he can sit there and talk about how he hates feminism, then it's so much easier to just ignore, feminist critique of what he's doing.
Superpower with the world's largest arsenal. Assuming you are talking about women in the USA, if you're defining women as anyone who identifies as being a woman, like yourself, there is no difference between men who identify as a woman and men. But if you're defining women by their biology and recognising there are sex differences between males and females, then it's worth noting that in some states in America, there are women who can be sent to prison for suspected abortion. And what that means in practice is that a woman can be sent to prison even if she's just had a miscarriage. This kind of legislation does not restrict men's freedoms or rights, given that men cannot get pregnant.
To me, the march just seemed like a circle jerk, feel-good festival, like anti-Trump hug box, with no real tangible goal.
I agree with you there, which is why, unless you're going for a full-scale revolution, you need to focus on a single-issue approach. The single-issue approach allows you to make alliances which suit your cause. You don't have to bring together a bunch of people and figure out how to get them all to agree on everything all the time. So that's the activist approach that I think works best for women, especially given that we don't have much power.
And I tweeted something to that effect, and I had thousands of feminists responding to me.
Blair White has thousands of feminists following him on Twitter.
About how I'm privileged, how I'm white, how I don't know what I'm talking about.
Funny how those so-called feminists didn't mention the fact.
See how it's already happening? He's setting it up as a way to just totally dismiss feminists. And he's going to conflate, real feminists, radical feminists, with liberal feminists without making the distinction. And that's totally a choice, right? Liberal feminists are the ones who paved the way for men like Blair White to do what they're doing. You know what I mean? So what is he even talking about? It's the real feminists are the ones who are going and so he's going to pretend like there's no difference, that this is all the same group. But the ones who wear like the pussy hat, the vagina hat, and are doing all the like goofy stuff at the women's march, those are the ones who totally support him masquerading as a woman. The women that he's talking about who come and are critiquing him on Twitter are not those feminists. They're the radical feminists who see him for what he is. But of course, he very conveniently is able to sort of, ignore that whole distinction and pretend like it's one and the same. So he can just write them all off as being, ridiculous, even though the ridiculous ones are the ones who support him. And the ones critiquing him are the ones who don't associate with liberal feminism.
Back to your mail though, Blair, eh?
But no one could answer, out of thousands.
For you to read through thousands of tweets like that shows your dedication to feminism.
Not one person could answer the simple question, what rights are you lacking?
I explained that already.
A lot of them said that it's less about missing rights and more about standing in solidarity against Trump.
Yeah, and I think that's true, which is probably why this march should not have been called the Women's March.
That makes it seem like even more of a feel-good fest because parading around in vagina hats.
They're not vagina hats, Blair. They don't even look remotely like vaginas. They have cat ears.
Is not going to change the fact that he was inaugurating.
These feminists that you're sitting here bitching about, Blair, are the reason that you even have a platform and are doing what you want to do. Magdalene Berns is not one of those sort of feminists. It's just convenient for you. All right, let's go through. Hold on. So answering the questions, why do you hate? That was the one that Kai said we should watch. So let's watch that real quick.
Like this.
All right, here we go.
Today I'm going to be answering the question,
why do you hate trans women?
I don't.
I'm going to tell you why. Okay, it's going to be like that.
Well, this won't be the first time.
If you don't hate trans women, congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's examine a few examples of situations where trans people are dehumanized.
Trans women in prostitution who face violence and risk HIV.
Or maybe even,
wow.
assaulted or anything like that.
Whoa, that sounds real homophobic. Whoa, she just pointed out that trans-identified males who are involved in the sex trade and prostitution and risk HIV. Wasn't that kind of what I said about Brianna Ivy? But I'm this according to Exelanzic and, Sierra Weir and Susan, aka Buck Angel, I'm some horrific homophobe. I hate gay men. I want them all to die. I hope that they all get AIDS. It sounds like you guys are the ones associating AIDS with gay men, not me. Again, sounds like she was right on target too.
Trans women in prostitution who are murdered and assaulted by Johns.
One very recent one is the whole trans bathroom thing, right?
Wrong.
People don't want men in women's washrooms.
Not just washrooms, female-only spaces in general.
Which is great because no men would be going into the women's washroom if trans women were allowed in your washroom.
Men are male, trans women are male. So how do you expect the average woman to be able to differentiate between these demographics of men? Men like Mark Lazarus, who dress in women's clothes, pounced on a 71-year-old woman as she was washing her hands, dragged her into a cubicle and tried to rape her. Christopher Todd Guard, who was arrested for aggravated assault, battery, assault with a dangerous weapon, kidnapping and indecent exposure. Or like Jason Pomer, who was arrested for videotaping girls and women in a ladies' bathroom. Norwood Barnes. How's a woman supposed to differentiate between him and a trans woman when he walks into a women's toilet and starts indecently exposing himself to little girls? Or like cross-dresser Eki Yatamoto was arrested with 17 counts of illegally entering buildings so he could perv on naked women in bathhouses. He dressed in women's clothes so that he could perv on women. What are you doing?
Because I'm a woman, you understand?
Women are female.
The fear there comes from a place of misinformation, I believe.
Women fought hard to get sex-segregated spaces written into law in the West, and now they're being taken away. Who's misinformed about that?
It's like they think that trans women are predators.
What they know is that male people are statistically significantly more likely to be sexual predators, and they also know that trans women are male.
And I don't know where they're getting this.
The facts about male sexual violence, or perhaps the news. Like when transsexual Claire Lawson and transvestite Peter Steele raped a woman and got more than 30 years for it because it was so sadistic. Or like convicted child rapist Davina Arton, or like trans activist and so-called women's rights advocate got charged with rape, like Isaiah Johnson, transgender person charged with luring a minor into a female bathroom and sexually assaulting him, or like convicted child molester Paula Witherspoon, who was ticketed for disorderly conduct.
I just think, and I want to underscore this yet again, how critical and pivotal it was for Magdalene Berns to be discussing this in 2018. Or when was this one done? 2016. Magdalene Berns, this video was made October 18th, 2016. We are in year 2024. We still can't fully discuss this stuff. Do you guys have any idea? There was no precedent for what she's doing right now. There was no precedent. She is the precedent. She's the reason that we're sitting here right now having these conversations. We could still barely have them. What this woman did was beyond brave. People who were doing this were again, and the TRAs and the TPAs were so much more, rabid and out of control. And they are still rabid and out of control, but now like they have, more of an eye of scrutiny finally on them. But at that time, no, this was the most, revered, protected, coddled class. People didn't understand this at all. People weren't even tuned in and she was talking about this. She was an absolute trailblazer for this topic. We owe her everything.
A women's restroom, or Juliana Falkowski, who was charged with possession of child pornography, but he has narrowly escaped of rape and abduction charges after the victim was determined unreliable.
The people that I see saying these things are most often older white men.
Perhaps it's because when women try to talk about this, they get shut down and no platformed, especially black women like Maya Dillard Smith, who was forced to leave her job after questioning HB2.
Most often politicians who use this fear-mongering as a way to garner votes or to gather support.
What? Like trans advocate Donald Trump?
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
Pow!
I think a lot of the other people that have trouble with trans women being in washrooms are people that think your vagina is what makes you a woman.
When people say humans typically have a heart, is that saying your heart is what makes you human? No, because lots of animals have hearts. Just like lots of animals have vaginas. Part of what makes you a female is having a vagina. Reproductive sex is defined by internal and external sex organs, chromosomes, and the hormones that are naturally produced.
Because isn't that like the exact opposite of what you're trying to do?
I'm assuming you're addressing feminists now. If so, no. By acknowledging reproductive sex, feminists are able to challenge the ways in which society is structured to disadvantage female people on the basis of their biology. Like in Argentina, where women get convicted for murder for having miscarriages, or El Salvador, where women get convicted for the crime of having a miscarriage. In the UK, women can get arrested for having a miscarriage. Or in America, where women have miscarriages, get arrested for murder.
What if this woman has a vagina, but she can't have children?
No male has ever been pregnant or given birth.
Does that mean her vagina is useless and therefore she's not a woman?
Straw man.
Because like trans women that have vaginas can't have children, but they have a vagina.
Some trans women have their penis surgically inverted. That is not a vagina, mate. That is not a vagina.
So are those women like...
A woman is an adult human female.
What is your problem?
Men like you.
Like, where is the line?
I'm gonna make it easy for you. No male is female. Not one.
You know what I mean?
No.
Does it have to be a perfectly functional vagina? Does the labia have to be a certain size for them to be counted as a woman?
A woman is an adult human female.
Does their clitoris have to be smaller than 1 millimeter in diameter?
No.
What kinds of requirements do you have for the woman registration?
Be adult, human, and female.
How do I do it?
You can't. You're male.
Telling a woman that she can't go to the washroom in the same room that you use because her genitals aren't the same as yours.
Women fought hard for these rights.
It's very, very strange, and it's none of your business.
It is our business to defend these rights.
And the fact is, trans women have never assaulted women in a washroom.
Never. Really? What about Patty Hagan, who punched a woman in the face, knocking out 5 of her teeth when she questioned his presence in the female toilets? 5 teeth.
But then when it comes down to it, the people that are fighting this aren't fighting it because they're worried about women.
Most of the people fighting this are women.
They're fighting it simply because they want to gather support around something they know people are afraid of. And there's nothing to be afraid of.
Man tells women not to be afraid of trans women. Transplaining.
Another situation in which trans women typically experience violence.
What's the betting? This Muppet is not going to give us an example of actual violence that trans women face.
You have this girlfriend. She's trans as fuck. She's trans.
Yeah, I cut this bit down a bit because Steph was labouring the point a bit.
And you're like, yeah, I want to introduce her to my friends. And she's down. You know, she's like, yes, I would love to, we get friends. But then one of your friends is a dick.
A dick? How so?
This friend of yours will not accept the fact that your girlfriend is a woman.
Not violence.
Regardless of any surgical status, because her chromosomes.
Not violence, though.
Because her chromosomes aren't, what he thinks women should have.
Still not violence.
This whole chromosomal argument is so.
Still not violence.
I can't believe it.
I really can't believe that.
Because the people that are arguing about chromosomes think that they actually matter.
Do you know who else thinks that they matter? Doctors, scientists, especially the scientist who discovered chromosomes and wasn't given credit because she had XX chromosomes.
Oh, like it just, like I say, it's surgical. It's surgical with her. The way she just breaks this down, she's, oh God. All right, I want to do the one where she talks to Ariel Scarcella, and then we're going to do with her final videos, and we'll wrap up. But like, honestly, go do a deep dive with her. She's so, so worth it. She's so worth it and so wonderful. Let's see, where is the one with her with Ariel Scarcella? Ariel. Hold on, I'll have to do a search, I guess. Okay, here we go.
Say that. That's the thing that homophobic people. Today I'm going to be responding to a recent video by Ariel Scarcella. She's received an awful lot of hate from the queer, trans, SJW community about the fact that she's a lesbian.
I've been told I'm transphobic because I like boobs and vaginas and not penises.
She sort of needs to recognise that the reason why they're attacking her is because of who she represents, lesbians. It's worth saying something about that if you want to stand up for these people.
Who I date is not up for debate.
I don't know if this is an American thing, but they seem to take everything personally. One of the techniques I use, which I think is helpful, take a step back and ask, what is it about what I'm saying that threatens these people?
Let's take away all notions that penises are a male body part. Whether you disagree or agree with that, doesn't matter.
Does matter. Those who've been following my channel since I first started uploading videos will know that there's no such thing as a lesbian with a penis. The terms male and female.
No, she hasn't changed, because Kai Decadence, I hear you saying there's a comment on that video that said Ariel has changed since then, but I seriously don't believe that. She still would have been against Magdalene because of her hard stance. Also, it was on New Year's Day, Ariel posted picture that said LGB with the T, you know, minus the Q and everything. And then she also, again, even during her Jubilee debate, where she said that she would accept a trans identifying male as long as he had a vagina, which that's not possible. That's not possible. Here, like, we can look at it really, really quick. Jubilee Ariel Scarcella. You know, I've shown this before, but I think it's important really fast to show it again, just to show even as recently.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local. This makes me so incredibly.
Oh God, this is, hold on. It's annoying. Shoot.
Recent Jubilee video.
Hold on, that's her reviewing it. Jubilee lesbians. All right, here we go. Really quick.
I didn't get to talk earlier, but I love women.
Where is it?
Negatively attacking me.
Okay, here we go.
Eat, breathe, and sleep every. Insane, right? But like.
A trans woman.
Yeah, I don't think so either, Kai. Unless she's, or honestly though, maybe she's not, like, maybe she's a femme deep down, deep down, where she like chooses, you know, only to be with women, but that doesn't mean she's totally opposite sex repulsed, right? I just can't imagine that any real lesbian would actually say something like this, unless there's some kind of profit motive.
Wow.
Yeah, you're surprised, right? Yeah. See, a lot of people don't know. I mean, does she have a vagina? I don't like.
That's a genital preference, not.
Disgusting to say genital preference. Please don't call it a genital preference. It's a sexual orientation.
Exactly.
So you're trying to say that an inverted penis is a vagina, right?
So what? I don't prefer vagina. I don't like.
But it is still a dick just because it's flipped inside out. So anyway, that's important just to know that that's where, even as recently as 2023, that's where Ariel is on that.
Are attributes of biological sex, not gender. So even if you subscribe to the ideology of gender identity, you cannot reasonably expect people to cease using these terms.
We're even going to take away the definition of lesbian.
So obviously this is going to make it impossible to formulate any kind of argument around the idea that...
I mean, that's a weird thing to say right now. Said, fun fact, most lesbians will sleep with a man at some point in her life, even if she's in a committed relationship with a woman. Like, during being in a committed relationship with a woman, I also think that, like, the percentage of, like, true lesbians is smaller than we think. I don't know. That's a whole other thing, but I don't.
Lesbians as a class of people have a right to autonomy, assembly and association and speech as well. A lot of implications there. What word are we going to use to describe homosexual women if we can't use that word anymore? Why are we the ones who've got to expand the definition when you consider there's a movement that's...
Yes, and they cheat on each other. Sorry, but then they're not lesbians. I'm sorry. If you're in a relationship with a woman, so you feel comfortable enough as a lesbian to be in a relationship with a woman and you cheat and have sex with a man, you're a bisexual. Like, and I think that there's like this weird status that comes with like saying that you're a lesbian, but if you're choosing to go have sex with a man when you're already in a relationship with a woman, it's not like you're trying to figure out your sexuality, or you're young, or you don't realize that homosexuality is a thing, and you are with a man and you're kind of disgusted because you were pushed in that way. But no, that's a bisexual. Okay, saying that that most lesbians go and choose to have sex with men is a really dangerous thing to say, because it's saying that, lesbians can accept dick under the right conditions. No, they're not. They're opposite sex repulsed. That's not how that works. Those are bisexual.
Okay.
Those are bisexual women. Bisexuals exist, yeah. Fem bisexuals exist. bisexual women exist, and they're far more plentiful than truly homosexual women. Homosexual women are even a smaller minority than homosexual men. There's a larger percentage of homosexual men than there are homosexual women. Homosexual women are the tiniest group, which is why it is so critical to protect and defend lesbian spaces. And also why it's so hard to do so, because it's like, you know, there's just not, it's not a huge demographic of people, but it's why these women need to have a space where they can come together and find people of their sexuality who want to date. And why it's so unfair that it gets inundated and totally taken over and hijacked by male fetishists or heterosexual couples looking for a threesome or whatever else.
The lesbian and gay rights movements to push forward the rights of homosexuals who are historically subjugated. If you're just going to redefine this term or forget that it even has a definition, what's the point of the L or the G in LGBT? What is the point?
Some people define it as a female being attracted to other females.
I think Ariel defines it this way because on her Twitter she did say that. That's the thing that homophobic people object to. They don't object to women who date male people that are feminine. That's why UK, for example, Equality Act of 2010 specifically defines homosexuality, bisexuality and heterosexuality as sex-based, and is based on European law.
And some people say it's women who are attracted to other people that identify as women.
A woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. Well, what does that mean in algebra? You just write the terms of both sides and what would you get? It's not logical setting up an argument when you haven't defined your variables.
X all of that out. Let's just go with the word attraction.
There's a conflation being made here between sexual preference and sexual orientation. And it's important to highlight that for the aforementioned reason that there are laws in place to protect these people. In countries like South Africa, lesbians get correctively raped. In countries like Saudi Arabia, gay men get killed. This is a serious issue, and we need to stop taking our rights for granted as if they can't be taken away from us, because this kind of rhetoric is heading towards a place where it becomes hate speech to say that you're a lesbian or a gay.
A big part of attraction is looks. People personally might think I'm ugly because I have a big nose or small boobs or because I'm short. That is okay.
You're lending credibility to the queer trans activist claim lesbians are just vagina fetishes, which is really derogatory and pretty offensive and sexist.
Body parts is what people are attracted to in the physical sense.
The physicality is a big aspect of it. There are other aspects of why lesbians exclusively date women.
Can we also be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually attracted to somebody? Yes.
It's not clear what you're saying.
Do I believe that trans women are real women? Yes.
I really personally struggle to believe anyone that says that.
Can I be a
And this is honestly, this is why I question, and I like, you know, I know like some people get mad about questioning people's sexuality and stuff, but it's like Magdalene like fully understands that no, of course there's no way as a lesbian you can be attracted. Being a lesbian is not just about being same-sex attracted. And I just said this. It's about being opposite sex repulsed, right? And that's significant, right? Why? Because even if you're like a femme is, you know, somebody who is technically bisexual who could be attracted to both but chooses to either exclusively deal with women or only deal with women, sort of like a bihet, who is somebody who is technically bisexual, but, you know, either mostly or exclusively deals with men, or, you know, I guess whatever, I don't know whatever the terms are for gay men, but it's like if you lived in a culture where, you know, for religious reasons, cultural reasons, you were forced to marry a man, well, if you're a femme, you be okay, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I would have rather be with a woman, but I'm okay. I'm not totally disgusted. I can be attracted to this man. It doesn't feel like rape every time that we're, you know, intimate. I can be into it and I can develop, you know, feelings for him and I can be attracted to him. As a lesbian, it's like, imagine just anybody who completely disgusts you, right? Somebody that the idea of being forced to lay down and sleep with that person and let them penetrate you makes you want to vomit. Anybody, right? Even if they're within the sex that you would be attracted to or whatever, right? Now imagine that being forced to now, okay, the only way that you can be accepted in society or accepted by your family, or the only way that, you will be tolerated or, won't get hurt is if you are with this person. And imagine how sickening and awful that feels, right? Or there's like a collection, whatever the case may be. And that's the difference between like a femme and like a true lesbian. That's why like Magdalene, I just feel like it's so obvious to her. She's truly, truly opposite sex repulsed. There's no question. That's why like, I don't know. It's like you got to question a little bit. Like she literally, I mean, she told us she would be attracted to a man. Why shouldn't we take her word for that? Why do we have to assume that there's some other ulterior motive? She just told us she would be attracted to a man as long as he, his penis was in the shape of a vagina. Sounds like a femme. I don't know. I don't know. But she told, I mean, no, it kind of is she confirmed that she's a femme because she told us that she'd be attracted to a man. We've got to stand on our principles. Those are men, right? So again, whether she's lying or something, that's a different story. But Magdalene is opposite sex, repulsed, same sex attracted. That matters.
Attracted to a trans woman who is pre-op. On hormones? Yes, because when a trans woman goes on hormones, they tend to have more feminine secondary sex characteristics.
I don't know if you're saying that just to get people off your back or not.
Should I then be forced to accept having sex with a partner that has a penis because I'm attracted to her overall? No.
The only people who don't recognise this are rapists and rape apologists.
Primary sex characteristics, vaginas and penises, are important to many people. Not all people, but some people.
People have the right to turn down them.
I hear you. So Callie Girly 69 says, I bet Ariel is a lesbian, but she's an unethical one that is willing to lie for inclusive credit points. And that's fine. Like I said, all that. But if we're going based off of what she has told us and admitted, then she's a bisexual woman. She's a femme bisexual. Based on what she has told us. Right? And not just what labels she's using, because again, we've as we've learned with Ariel, the labels that she uses don't have the same meanings that we know them as, right? They're very fluid in their definition. But based on what she's described, if she's saying that she would be attracted to men in whatever condition a man is in, that's not a lesbian, right? Logically. Now, whether or not she's telling the truth, that's a different story.
Anyone for any reason they want. I mean, it's so depressing that this argument even has to be made.
Can the physical, mental, and emotional types of women vary?
Sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yes. If a lesbian does not want to date or fuck me.
On the couch, on the table, on the bar, on the floor.
Sorry, I got distracted there.
Does that invalidate me being a woman?
You are a woman, so you don't rush around needing validation.
The same goes for any transgender person.
That's so true. So Scarlett Turvin says, anyone who will twist their brain to make an exception for a man as a woman means they'll lie to you as badly as they'll lie to themselves. And that's totally true. That's totally true.
If someone does not want to fuck you, it does not invalidate your identity.
It might do, but that's their problem, not your problem. Nobody.
I think people, like Joe Springs says, just because I come to love someone who turns out to have the wrong junk doesn't mean I'm going to have a sexual relationship with them. I also think that we underestimate how much we are hardwired to identify males and females. It's not just visual. We can hear it in their voice. It's in the way that they move. It's in the way that they smell, their pheromones. Females and males have different pheromones. All of these things work together to create attraction, right? Attraction is a very multifaceted formula. It's not just like, oh, I see something, right? It's in the way that they move, they speak, the way that they, are. And it's like we are so hardwired to understand, who our attraction targets are. So this idea, I just think the idea that, we would accidentally get attracted to somebody who isn't within our attractive area is kind of like, it's something that they talk about happening a lot, but it's like, does it really happen?
Nobody's responsible for validating the.
And you're totally right. It's like, yeah, for example, like, you know, in Joe Spring, kind of like what you're saying, it's like, I think with that being said, like when you see someone on a two-dimensional thing behind filters, it's like men who think that they would be attracted to Blair White just based on just not even knowing anything about him. They just see it like, oh, wow. But then once they actually see him in person, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hold on. You know that you can identify this stuff and you don't even know how you're able to identify it. I just think we're so wired for that stuff.
Identity of somebody else, even if they do.
And yeah, you're right, Joe Spring. It's like and just to drive that final point home, it's like, say they like accidentally thought they were attracted to Blair White and then went on a date with him and they're like, oh wow, they're not going to go like, well, I'm just going to go forward anyway because I already was attracted to the picture that I saw of you and like sleep with you. Like that's not how that works.
Validation. It's their problem. They need to address their own issues and stop imposing on other people. Why are we even pandering to the...